well, the Trinity doctrine, any type of doctrine I could think of. And that got me on to the path that I'm going now. But so the I guess the big question is, how much study have I done in cults? Uh, I basically make it a rule, and I'm not saying everybody should do this or not, but I'm basically making a rule. If someone invites me to their congregation, if I'm, available, I'm going to go ahead and go. So I've been invited to Jehovah's Witnesses a couple of times, and I've been invited to Mormons a couple of times, and got to talk to some Mormons and got to really, learn what they know and what Jehovah's Witnesses know, and same with Seventh Day Adventists, and um, so I do like studying, that type of stuff. And I think I've pretty much. It's not like I wouldn't call myself an expert on any of it, but uh, it's like I'm a Christian. I was raised a Christian, and most people are Christians. They've been raised a Christian. But how do you know? I, Probably a good thing to study about it. So, like for instance, the Quran. I started reading in the Quran a little bit, enough to see the errors, and then I'm like, okay, there it is. There's the silver bullet error, and so I was done. I was done reading the Quran. So I've done that with, same with the Mormons. It's like when the Mormons came over to my house, they're like, well, can you just well, they say this to everybody. They're like, well, read these few verses and pray about it, and uh, let me see. They say, and you'll feel that burning in your bosom, and you'll know that it's true. And so uh, well, they came back again, and they said, well, did you pray about it? And I'm like, no, I didn't pray about it. And then they're like, pray about it. And then they kept asking me. They came back. They said, did you pray about it? I'm like, no, I didn't pray about it. And then finally, I'm like, okay, I'll pray about it. And I prayed about it, and basically, I'm not saying that the Father, gives me answers all the time. He really doesn't, or maybe I just don't know how to listen properly. But I did get a message on this one. He said, I gave you a brain, I gave you the spirit, you figure it out. And so I looked into it, and I really quickly went to some areas where I'm like, yeah, uh, well, basically Joseph Smith just completely plagiarized lots of stuff. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. And he's, taking it upon himself saying this is legit. And I'm like, nah, this is, I think anybody, well, it cannot possibly hold up in a court of law. And it wouldn't even hold up in a high school English class.
Okay, so real quick, since you went ahead and pulled it out, we'll go ahead and tell everybody that just in case you are a Jehovah's Witness or a Mormon or something like that, it doesn't mean that
Yeah.
you know what I mean? You could be
Yeah.
just a completely saved person and misguided. It doesn't mean anything about you personally. He's
Yeah.
generalizing.
Yeah.
But about the book, about the 7 rules.
Yeah. Oh, I got that. Yeah, almost every single one I actually saw, and I'm like, this needs to be addressed somehow. And at that time, that Joel Osteen's book, I think it says something like the 7 ways to be a better you or something like that was out. And so that's why I thought about this, 7 ways to become a better cult leader.
And so what's the first way? Well, don't give
You
us
got
all 7 ways. We got to make them by the book, right? So don't give
it.
us all 7 ways.
It's just a booklet. Yeah, booklet. But yeah, it's do you have it in front of you? Because yeah,
I
uh,
don't have it in front of me. I was looking for my copy, Mr. Jason, and I don't have that one. And I was looking for one
okay.
online. I was gonna buy one online real quick, but I couldn't find one on
Oh,
Amazon either.
it's just an article, really.
Oh,
It's
okay.
so yeah, I can pull it up. I'm not sure if you can see me right now if I'm frozen, but
No, we can hear you fine, but so
okay,
you're all right.
okay,
Now turned black. But as long as you read, we can hear you.
okay. The 7 steps, uh, 7 steps to becoming a better cult leader. And I say now, when you see a cult leader do something listed below, you can say that is right out of the Cult Leaders Handbook.
That's right.
So the first one, find a doctrine that separates you from others and hit on it often. If you just go around and preach Jesus died on the cross for your sins, well, most people can hear that from their current church. You need something that separates you from others. Then, when you awe people with this new information, they're likely to follow you. Point out often how ignorant other groups are. If one of your sermons runs short, just resort to bashing the other congregation's ignorance on this subject. So that was number one. Number two, scare your followers. Make them think that if they left the church, they've fallen away or left God's protection. Make statements such as, and feel free to steal or plagiarize these statements. I did. A, if you are in this church, it's because God called you to this church. If you leave this church, you're leaving God's calling. Or
Yep.
B, when someone leaves your church, tell the people that are left that the ones that left, quote, decided to go back to Egypt, unquote. Or say, quote, God is purging the devil's people from this church, unquote. C, quote, to be rescued or protected or on his team, you need to be with this church, unquote. Yeah, again, every single one of them I heard from what I believe is a cult leader.
Yes, sir.
Number three, talking to Jesus. And I almost fell out of my chair when I heard this one from this guy. He says, or here it is. When you tell your congregation that God or Jesus told you something, it is wise to stay away from new doctrine, especially if you haven't studied it out. And don't give them dates on his return. Many cults or cult leaders have predicted dates and turned out wrong. Although it spikes their congregation attendance for a short time, when the date passes, your wrong predictions will hurt your control over your congregation. When you tell people about your meeting or talking with Jesus, you should tell them something that they can never disprove, such as, quote, I was about to lock up the church one night and I was cleaning, listening to praise music and starting to praise him and dancing. Then, all of a sudden, Jesus showed up in the flesh and we danced together. He let me touch his scarred hands and feel his side. He told me that I was doing a good job and that someday a great reward will await me. He told me to tell you to follow my lead so you might get more rewards also. You may say things like, quote, time is short, and, quote, his coming will be soon, unquote. But you should try to refrain from giving dates. If you have given a date that's wrong, the damage can be repaired easier than you might think. Just tell them that they misunderstood you. Deny, deny, deny. Or have another, quote, meeting with Jesus and tell your followers that you misunderstood and it was not his second coming, but he was going to show up in the spirit on this day. You can try to pull off what the Jehovah's Witnesses do. They don't back down from their failed prediction. They still claim that Jesus came back in 1914. I must give their leaders some major thumbs up. Not many cult leaders could pull this one off. I still suggest you don't even attempt this tactic. I have little doubt that if they did not ever mention the 1914 return, that their membership would be much larger in size. Some make the mistake of saying that their calculations were off by a month, but then when Jesus didn't show up again, well, I don't think even Jim Jones' influence would not take a major blow with the two big failed predictions in 2 months. Number 4, have a well thought out end time scenario. Cult followers are always wanting the hidden secret knowledge. The most attractive subject to many of these people is eschatology, which is the study of end times. When one of your followers asks an eschatology question, you don't want to say, I don't know. Only when you suspect a trap with something that possibly could be proven wrong from scriptures should you resort to those 3 words. Number 5, you want your congregation full of ignorant people and non-researchers. You don't want people researching things out themselves. You don't want unsupervised Bible studies. It's during times like these that people could come to a doctrine different than yours, or even worse, they could realize that someone in the Bible has, or someone in that Bible study has a lot of biblical knowledge and maybe even more knowledge than you. If you are doing a Bible study, make sure you are in control. Don't allow knowledgeable ones to talk too much. Also, you should go through your members' books and tell them to throw ones away that you don't agree with. I've seen that happen before too. I had a person tell his congregation, throw my book away. Number 6, have lots of church services, 3 or more a week. Make them feel very guilty if they're falling away when they miss church services. You need them there as much as possible, or their mind and ear might wander to another preacher, or they might compensate from lack of church services by reading their Bibles. If you only have 1 service per week, this might result in other Bible studies forming up. If you hear of a Bible study forming up where you can't be there, send one of your mouthpieces, someone you promoted high in the ranks. If you cannot do this, you must discourage them from doing the Bible study. Tell them that there are many false doctrines out there and that it's your job to protect them from the lies. Tell them that this is how Satan sneaks lies into the church to break down God's kingdom. If you hear of a Bible study possibly forming, it would be best to take away your followers' free time by the following ways. A, make another service, prayer meeting, or church. B, give the head of the Bible study group more tasks. He should be in charge of bulletins or events, or making her or him a youth pastor. This will force him or her to do some type of lesson plans or events. C, get your people to go knock on doors and invite people to church. D, tell them that time is short and that when they're not in church, they need to be prepping or making more money to give to the church so the church can grow. And then 7, promote people. I've seen this happen too. After you see someone that doesn't research but parrots what you say, then you can promote that person. Make them a prophet or apostle or an evangelist or something like this. Give them a plaque to hang on their wall to acknowledge this. This plaque will look like a graduation diploma. It could look something like this. Quote, on this day, such and such has been promoted to prophet. If they hang it on their wall, you know you have them right where you want them. Make sure you sign it because they can't be a prophet without your signature. That's it. Sorry, it took a little bit.
The signature is very important.
Yeah, I've actually seen that happening, and I've been to the person's house, and they had this plaque saying that on this day, such and such made him a prophet.
Mm-mm-mm. A lot of this really happens. Like the Jim Jones things. Did you see Matt Powell's video a few months ago?
No.
He did a great YouTube video, and he had FBI tapes about Jim Jones and that whole thing. And he was a full-on atheist, and he would brag about it. And he was like, and all my bishops know I'm an atheist. They all know what's going on here. And he would say it in his sermons and things like that. It's really amazing. So that goes to show that it's not just, I mean, he used religion, but it's not just religions that can be cults, you know?
Yeah. Well, we have a cult-like mindset where people want to follow other people, and people want a guru. Yeah. And I mean, it's just even even there's cult like mindsets even in non-cultist churches. You know, someone might just join a church and it might be a decent church, but they have a cult like mindset where everything that church says is true and they are in the right church. And I just want to point out that, you know, God gave you a brain, God gave you a spirit. He wants you to use it. So don't just
Amen.
swallow anything else from anybody. They might be right, they might be completely right, but still use the brain that God gave you, use the spirit that God gave you. Do your due diligence. We fortunately we can have the scriptures today and we can read the scriptures. Do your due diligence and come to those conclusions. You can use help. I like talking to people. I like, you know, mowing things over. I respect lots of people, lots of preachers, lots of even rabbis. I'll, you know, chew the meat. Almost like uh you know, in the Old Testament, God said that there's some clean animals and unclean animals, and the clean animals had a divided hoof and they chewed their cud. We need to be, before we have the basically swallow the meat or make sure that meat is clean, we need to properly divide the word and continue to chew the meat and bring it back up, chew it again to make sure it's clean. Don't be like the pig, basically, and just, you know, properly divide the word and then swallow it whole first time.
Very good advice. Very good advice. Um, Touching kind of on both of those subjects right now, would you classify, and I know you work with them a lot, so this is kind of a loaded question, but would the Amish or the Mennonites or some of these groups fall into that cult mentality, or are they just still in an old school tradition that's not let up? Or do some of them small little places end up becoming cultish, I guess is my question.
Yeah, and I want to, you know, say, you know, you mentioned the Jehovah's Witnesses earlier. I have Jehovah's Witness friends. I used to have some Mormon friends. Um, you know, I love to sit down and you know, talk to them, and you know, and I consider them my friends. But like, yeah, Amish. I have a lot of Amish friends, but yeah, they are, and I respect them a lot. I like their practices. They are very humble. I they uh they have lots of things that I wish a lot of English people or non-Amish people had. But yeah, they are in a cult, and if you don't do it their way, they think that, well, they think their way is the only way to heaven. I have
Right.
done a little bit of study into the Amish, and there's this one guy. He's on YouTube. You can find him on YouTube. His name is Eli Yoder, and he mentions about you know, his mom won't have anything to do with him. His mom thinks that he is, you know, going to go to hell, and he thinks that they think that all non-Amish are going to go to hell.
It's a very limited number then.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah. I
limited
mean, I know
number.
there's a narrow path and a wide path, but there's a lot of people out there that think the path is way too narrow, or a lot narrower than I believe it really is. One thing that I know is that on Judgment Day, you'll see the perfect example of justice, and you'll see the perfect example of mercy. I mean, which are, you know, justice, mercy, and faithfulness are the three requirements of the Most High from Micah 6:8. Also, here's the Messiah said, basically there'll be many calling out saying, Lord, Lord, and he says, depart from me, you workers of iniquity. Not depart from me because you thought I died on a cross instead of a pole, or a pole instead of a cross, or if you depart from me because you thought I was 3 with 1 instead of 1 with 3, or with 2 with 1, or something like that. It's no, depart from me, you workers of iniquity. And one more, Ecclesiastes 12:12-13, of making many books there is no end, and much study is weariness of the flesh. Let us hear the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. It's not figure out the Godhead, or figure out,
Right.
you know, how do you pronounce his name, or figure out this. No, fear God. Basically, you know, try to try your very best to follow him and follow his commandments.
That's a very, very true point. That's what
Yeah,
matters. And his
that's correct.
commandments are to love God and to love one another like ourselves. Not just love one another,
Yes.
love them as much as we love ourselves.
Yes.
So those two commandments right there are taking ego out of the equation, because if you put God above you, so you love him more than yourself and you put him in your throne, and you don't put your conceptions on top, but
Yes.
you examine yourself in the Bible, and at the same time you put yourself exactly equal on everything with others, then it's exactly what he is telling us on other verses: deny yourself and pick up the symbol of that denial, which is your cross, and follow me. So
Yes.
if you don't understand that, and you have figured out everything else, like when he's coming, the hour that he's coming, you figure it out, right? But you don't have those two, you're not making
Yeah.
it. Depart
Yeah.
from me, I never knew you.
Yeah. You can have all the knowledge and all the gifts, but you do not have love, you are nothing.
Yep.
I think 1 Corinthians 13.
Yeah, I love that verse because the King James has played with that word a little bit, and he has changed it to charity.
Yes.
So it says if you have all these things, if you have the faith that can move mountains, but you don't have charity,
Yeah.
then you don't have nothing.
Yeah.
And then when you read further down, it says, if you give all your money to the poor, but you don't have charity, now that doesn't make much sense, does it?
Right.
So the word is simple. It's agape. It's love. And
Yes.
the King James is like, no, I know what God meant to say here. He meant to say, give money to the church.
Yes.
So anyway, yeah.
I
don't
believe,
wanna...
if I remember right, the Greek word there is agape, which basically
Yes,
is a self-sacrificing love.
exactly what it is. And there is only one word for agape. The others are attributes of agape. I am Greek, by the way, and that's why I call it agape, not agape. It's
Okay.
agape. You don't have that letter, that r in your language. And I know that there is this perpetrated narrative from the Vatican to create other forms of love, but love is always one. It is the same, and it is self-sacrificial, and it's the one that God showed us how to do by denying yourself and put yourself on a cross. Now, I can do this for my lover, but I can also do this for my brother. It is exactly the same. It's always the same. Now, if you add friendship to it, like becomes philia, yeah, but it's the same agape. It's the same love. It doesn't change. Love is one.
Yes.
I loved my brother. Those tips were very shocking because there is a church here in Greece, which Greece is plagued by orthodoxy. I'm going to say this again and again and again. I don't care what they think. But there is one church that is actually talking about the word. They are the Pentecostals of Greece. They're not like the Pentecostals of the States. They're not the charismatic type. They will not bring snakes and try to control snakes. And they have a radio, and if you tune in the radio, all you hear is the word of God all day long. Somebody is preaching on the word of God. Now that is a church. That is what the church must be. But because they have been attacked so much by orthodoxy, they have all these attributes that you described, all of them. And it is a very thin line, and it was very interesting to know. And you also said at the end that there are legitimate churches that do carry this mentality, the cult mentality. And yeah, that is what is happening on the Pentecostals of Greece. Like if you,
I believe
if
that
you live, go ahead, Joseph.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, brother. I was just gonna say that I think this cult mentality is going everywhere. That's why I was trying to say make a segue, is in not just religion. I mean, there was somebody that came through the ministry here, and it's just amazing. I don't want to get into it because then people are going to ask questions and details and stuff. But it's just amazing, like the things that are happening in public schools, how like almost a whole elementary class is all of a sudden bi or transgender or non-binary or something, and there's no way this is just gradual numbers increasing over time, right? Like this isn't just the average for today. This has to
Mhm.
be some type of indoctrination, some type of cultivating of their brains to let them think that this is what's going on with them and that it's okay, and it's branching out into everywhere, into every stream of life. And
Yep.
and I don't know, I don't want to sound like get off of my lawn, but I was told that what goes on behind a closed door is none of my business, but it's no longer behind their closed door. Now it's all the way out into the streets and in the public libraries and in the public schools and everywhere else. So this
Right.
cult, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, right. I completely agree.
Yeah, so
Agree.
this cult is not just for churches and religions. I know when people say cults, they think of Jim Jones and Heaven's Gate, Waco, a couple of other ones, but it's not just for those. I think that's just the little box that we've put it in when we think about it and
Mhm.
when we say that word out loud.
I agree.
Yeah. No, if you, on the example that you brought, they will warn you that your parents are your enemy. They are
Yeah.
not going to believe what you are, and they're going to tell you that you are not, and you're going to have a problem at your house. So it is exactly what a cult would do. It has now turned mainstream, and it's the
Right.
mainstream narrative.
Right.
Hello,
It's
Ryan.
hey
Hey,
Ryan.
hey, everybody. How y'all doing?
All right, all
I
right. We're
just,
just talking with Jason.
I just got to that part of my route. I got to the dead end. So I
You
No
know
place
why
to
we
go
call
but
it?
back.
do I?
No, just telling Joseph that we call it the dead end over there because it's the end of his route, and it's also a cemetery.
Yes.
And that's where his signal
Yeah.
exists. It doesn't
I,
have reception throughout the whole ride. Just on that spot, he does.
well, the dead folks need good internet, good cell phone signal. They
For a good
uh,
connection up there, you know.
yeah, yeah. Um,
It's the
but
dead center of
anyway,
town, Doc would say.
yeah, the dead center of town. That's exactly right. Um, anyway, I don't want to interrupt. I just wanted to say hey, and I'll go ahead and mute and all that stuff, and just kind of listen to what y'all have going on, Joseph.
Yeah,
Um,
of course you can add to it if there's anything. We're just kicking around
okay.
cults and cultish behavior and stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, speaking of cults, there's this place in Alabama that's run by this cult leader. Just kidding. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I've
what
heard
people
something like
say.
that. I'm on a
All
deep
right.
cover investigation work.
Yeah, yeah. See, you're doing an undercover
Well,
investigation right now.
I would like to just mention that brings me to a point that cult leaders are very insecure about themselves, in my opinion. I think that they almost
Mhm.
all of them that I've seen, it's like they want you to swallow everything that they say. I mean, to the
Mhm.
very if they think that the Messiah died on a pole, well then you better say that, or if you don't, and you better believe that too. And what little I know about Dr. Hovind, I mean, he invites people with different views to his place, and he's like, come on over here. You believe in evolution? Come on over here, brother.
We'll heal you.
What's that?
We will heal you.
Yeah,
Come over,
right.
we'll heal you.
But but yeah, well, of course, that's his ministry. But there's Sabbath keepers there, there's Torah keepers there, and they don't, I don't, from my knowledge, they don't seem threatened at all, and stay there for a little while, and they go off and do their thing, and they come back. And
Yep.
it doesn't seem like Dr. Hovind is threatened by them either.
No, it happens with a lot of people. I mean, everybody's heard Doc say, Hail Mary, full of grace, swinging beads all over the place. We've all heard him say that, and we chuckle, but we still have Catholic priests and nuns come through here with a group of kids, and take the tour, take the Science Center tour, and learn creation, because no matter what our differences, and I say this a lot, me and Jason, me and you've talked about this, for all of the faults and all of the negative things that Paul or Peter or even Jesus had to say about the scribes and the Pharisees and the Sadducees, they all still attended church together. They didn't split the temple or the synagogue or the church over a difference. And one of the big differences was about resurrection. That's a pretty big one. So, and I think today, and maybe it's because these leaders want to slip off into these cults, they can no longer compromise and stay together under one roof. But we just split up so easy today, because everybody thinks they have the right answer.
Yeah. And then they get offended real quick. It's like, well, and today we have the vehicle. So it's like you go to this one church and say the preacher offends you or someone else offends you there. You're like, well, I'm just offended. I just won't be here anymore. I'll just go somewhere else. But back in the day, you met at your local, in Messiah's time, they met at their local synagogue, whether they liked the guy or not, where, they, if say, one of the Pharisees died and leaving his wife widow, it's like, well, yeah, this punk just died and left his wife widow, so we have to do what we have to do. And they'll all, whether they like the guy or not, they need to go out there and help that widow. And that shows true maturity, where you can love somebody without liking them.
Right. At arm's length, I like to say, love them at arm's length.
Yeah, you don't have to invite them over for tea every day, but
right.
Maybe, but you might need to one day.
Right. So that's them. What else we got? We've touched on the Amish. We've touched on the cults. I love being called a cult around here. It's fantastic. Like I was actually me and a few of the guys here, a couple of the guys that hate me right now was going to be involved. And we were going to start a podcast called The Worst Cult Ever, because all of us had different beliefs, like one's a Calvinist, preterist, mid-tribber, post-tribber. I mean, we just all had different beliefs, and people come and go here all the time with a multitude of beliefs. And, hopefully one common factor is Jesus, right? Like he's the one that's going to bind everybody together. He draws all men unto him. So all of these other these disagreements, they're all ancillary, I think. Almost all of them. Yeah. If you believe in the gospel, I believe almost every other doctrine almost is irrelevant. You could be wrong and still be saved. And if that's the case, and I'm not supposed to judge the heart, then how am I supposed to ever know if you are saved and just misguided, just wrong? Right? I never would. So I am supposed to love you like I am the one going through that, like myself. I love you like myself. And if that were me going through that, would I want a whole billion people jumping on my forehead? No.
Right. That's what matters the most.
All right. That goes. Go ahead, Achilles. Go ahead.
I would, though, add to this that there are some chances on some doctrines that because we are supposed to love others as ourselves, we got to do what we can to get them out of those doctrines because they are dangerous. Doctrines like preterism, doctrines like, pre-trib, it's not dangerous enough to lose your salvation. Which is that's another discussion whether you can lose it or not.
But it's a slippery slope about your faith afterwards. If you believe you're going to miss the rapture or if you believe you're going to miss tribulation, if you believe you're going to miss it and you end up being here for it, it could get you mad at God and maybe alter your faith a little bit. But if you can hold strong,
why it's dangerous. Exactly why it's dangerous.
Yeah. I did hear someone one time say, well, that can't be the mark of the beast because I'll be raptured out before the mark of the beast comes. So I don't really even need to study what the mark of the beast is, because I'll be raptured out before then. And so yeah, that could be very dangerous to miss that one. But if you know, for all the people that have already died, it didn't hurt them. You know, if they died already and they were pre-trib, didn't hurt them.
Then I'll give one of them one bit of credit. He said a great line when you know, because he was pre-trib rapture and I was post, and we were arguing about it, and he told me, it doesn't matter if I'm wrong. I have no problem changing my theology mid-air. And I thought that was pretty good. So
as long as you have the parachute, whether it's Jesus Christ, then yeah, I agree on that.
I knew someone, he was a pre-trib guy, and but you know, he's already passed away, so obviously it didn't do too much. But you know, one thing I knew is that if you're following the Father, he'll lead you to the place. I mean, but you have to be, you know, the person I talked about earlier that said, well, he just, you know, I don't need to worry about the mark of the beast because I'll be raptured out. He wasn't really a follower, as he didn't really study the Bible. He didn't really look at the Bible like an instruction book, like, hey, show me what it is, show me where to go. He pretty much was the average religious person that went to church a few times and got this doctrine and believed it. So, but the people that are really trying to follow the Father and the Messiah, he'll put you where you need to be when you need to be there, and he'll correct your doctrine. I'm sure of it.
That's 100% fact. You know, I bought into that for a minute, read a bunch of the books, watching the movies and stuff like that. I thought it was pretty cool how that, you know, at the time I thought it was true. I believed it was true. And like, here are all these cool movies and stuff. And then, you know, after about a year or so, I'm having other Bible studies, and I'm watching debates and, you know, listening to discussions on this. And I was like, man, I'm wrong. There's no way I'm wrong, man. And, you know, it's not great to come out of that, but the point is, I agree with you 100%. You know, you're not going to be where you're supposed to be until you're supposed to be there, you know? And I don't know, you tell it a pretty good way. I remember you telling it a pretty good way anyways, when you were talking about your experience in the military, how like, you know, some things you didn't know on day one, right? Because you didn't have to know it. You just had to be in the military, and then you learn it all later as you go, you know, something to that effect.
Yeah.
You used the rule book a lot, the
UCMJ.
Yeah.
I use that analogy when it comes to, because a lot of people sometimes, well, they don't understand the whole works and grace thing, and they think, oh, it's I mean, it is a free gift, but they don't have well, in my opinion, I have a decent analogy, and that is when I wanted to become a soldier, I went to the recruiter, and he didn't say, well, here's the UCMJ and lay that on me. Learn those, do those, start waking up every morning and doing your PT and start doing all this other stuff, and then you can become a soldier. He didn't say that. I didn't even know the UCMJ. He just said, you want to be a soldier? I'm like, yeah. Just raise your right arm, raise your right hand, swear your allegiance. And I swore my allegiance. Bam, I was a soldier. And then, though, right after that, it's like, oh yeah, but you swore that your allegiance. Now these go by.
That's right.
Yeah.
Welcome. I've had a little too much coffee, guys. I need 30 seconds. I'll be right back.
All right. Indeed, the Army teaches us a lot of stuff about even how the gospel works, because we are being told by the book of Ephesians that this is a spiritual warfare that is going on, and we need to be dressed up as we're going to battle. And yeah, it makes perfect sense, and it's exactly as you described it. You get in, you have this you have the right mindset, you swear, but now you got to follow the rules. You didn't know the rules before swearing. Now that you swore, now here are the rules, and you'll be a soldier when you are able to follow them.
Yes. And your chain of command, they're going to be easy on you at the very beginning. When, some sergeant walked in the first time and we're all supposed to stand up at parade rest, and we didn't because we didn't know any better. He was like, hey, look, here's, step one. When we walk, when you see this rank here, when this type of rank steps in, you have to all stand up at parade rest. Let me show you what parade rest is. I mean, it was real, he just like a kid that doesn't know what he's doing wrong. You're going to be guided, you're going to be shown. But, there's a lot of Christians out there. It's like the Father gave us a rule book. He expects us to read it. And, and there's a lot of Christians out there that's like, okay, well, I swore my allegiance, and now they're not even going to bother picking up the UCM or the Bible. And, well, if I was a soldier and I didn't even bother paying attention to UCMJ, I'll end up in bondage. And a lot of Christians end up in bondage because they don't understand, or they're not even trying to follow the scriptures and his instructions.
And that's where that first commandment comes in. If you have some opinion and you don't verify it with the Bible, to search further and listen to the arguments of the other side, those that are telling you that you are wrong, then you are not actually putting the word of God above you. You're putting your opinion above the word of God.
That's correct. And with enough thought, if you do that, you can break a whole host of the commandments. Like, for instance, basically, as James says, he pretty much said, you break one, you break them all. And if you break, like, say, if you're supposed to be doing this and you don't, well, then you just broke the first commandment, which is don't have any other gods before him. And then being rebellious is also linked to honor your father, not honoring your father and mother. I mean, you can just go down the list, and there's this one guy, Achan. He took some spoils of war from it's in basically Joshua Joshua told them, don't take any spoils of war, or the Lord told him, don't take any spoils of war. And this guy named Achan took some spoils of war. And what happened after that is people died. Battles were lost. So he's probably thinking, oh, I'm not, involved in murder, and he's not directly involved in murder, but lives were lost because of your sin. So basically, you could be breaking a whole host of the commandments by purposely breaking one.
Yep. Well said, my brother. I agree 100%. That's why we gotta investigate the word. And even Paul, when he was talking to the Bereans, he said that in contrast to the Thessalonians, I like you Bereans because you are studying the word. But he doesn't stop there. He says you are studying the word in order to verify if what I am telling you is true. So he was asking them to take the word and put it against him. So, wow, I mean, that is what we must do. If you don't do that, you become a cult before you make it official.
Yes.
You become a single cult of one person to begin with.
Yes.
And then you start trying to convince others. Like, I have some mentality, and then I'll try to convince Joseph. So now we are two in the cult. Once I convince him, and it grows.
Right. I had a question, but I got to laughing at Dan's comment.
Cult leader. Oh, well. Oh, okay. Oh, yes, you're right.
Yeah. I had a typo on the title.
Okay.
I had a typo on the title.
U. At least it's a U. At least it's not an A.
Yeah, cut leader.
Cut leader.
Right on. So what else you have going on, Jason? What else you get into out there in Tennessee?
Oh, well, working on that lawful money round and working on my farm. Uh, yeah, 4 children and trying to raise them up right. The most important thing.
Amen. How you doing with the round? How's that going?
It did really well right after Dr. Hovind for there was a spike in purchases after Dr. Hovind mentioned it, and it's not as good right now, but I need to go ahead and start doing videos or something like that to really promote it. It's my fault for not doing videos yet, but I need to.
Yeah.
If
Yeah,
I could
you
jump
should.
in
You
real
have loads of information. You definitely should, Jason. For everybody listening, Jason does his own silver rounds called Lawful Money. You can find it at lawfulmoney.com. Go ahead, Ryan. I'm sorry.
Okay. I was just I just now got back to the office, and I'm going to be here for a little while before I'm completely off work. Jason, I heard you live in Tennessee.
Yes,
What part, if you don't mind me asking?
it's Southwest.
Okay.
Shanville.
Okay, because I've got some really good friends. Actually, a member of our panel, a host on our panel, him and his family. They live in Knoxville, and then I have another family in Knoxville that I'm friends with. So I just was curious if you might be in that area or not.
No, I'm not.
But yeah, closer to Memphis, then, right?
Yes.
Okay, I got you. All right. Well,
Did you did you hear about the plane accident, Ryan, in Nashville?
in Knoxville or Nashville?
Nashville.
Knoxville. You talking about
NAS. NAS.
Knox? Oh, Nashville.
Yeah.
No, I did not hear about it.
Help me out. Is this in that state?
Yeah, Nashville and Knoxville are both in Tennessee, but I didn't hear about a
Yes.
plane wreck.
Yeah, there was a plane crash, and it crashed on the highway. I think I'll look it up.
I think I heard something about that. Actually, I did hear something about that. Yeah, that's where that's Larry and Cindy's neck of the woods.
So Gangster Ghost wants to know if I would ever debate someone over preterism. And I mean, I guess I could, but it's hard. It's hard to reason somebody out of something they were never reasoned into. So I guess it would depend on the person, right? If they just, like Jason was saying earlier, if they just believe it because that's what they grew up believing, then there's no way I'm gonna win a debate like that. But if they were older and they just stumbled across it and said, "Hey, I like preterism, blah blah blah," and then I don't know. I've done this before. I've actually shown somebody before that it couldn't have been Nero, right? Because Nero died 2 years before 70 AD, and this guy come at me the next day with just a new dude. I think he used Titus or somebody else, but that was the only part of his whole ideology that he changed was who was emperor. That was it. Like everything else that he believed based on that stayed the same. He just added a new emperor, and that's what I mean. Some of those arguments really just they're unfruitful altogether. I mean, I guess for the people listening along, if you have an open mind and you'll see both sides, I guess it would be worth it. But to just stand there and argue with somebody, I'm not too down for that.
Yeah. When you're debating somebody, well, the question is, why are you debating them? If you're debating them for other people, then just keep that in mind. But if you're debating them, well, I have not seen anybody on a video debate that has ever changed their mind, because it's too much pride that gets in, and they're going in there to show the world that you're wrong. And so when the debate starts, you could be tearing him up, and they're just going to dig in their heels.
That's right.
And then they'll really dig in their heels. I mean, they'll say some stupid stuff, and then it might even get nasty too.
Yeah. Right. Like I've had other people that they want to debate on morality, and yeah, sure, I could easily debate you and explain to the whole world why objective morality why if subjective morality exists, then there is no such thing as morality, right? Like in that sense, right. Like if there is no objective morality, then like Paul said, everything's legal. Do it all. Do whatever you want. Eat, drink, be merry, for tomorrow we die. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. So what makes me laugh the most are when these guys claim that morality is relative or it's all subjective. There is no objective, but then they turn around and make objective claims like God is evil because he caused a flood to come on the world. You know, they borrow from God. And so that's what I mean about these type of debates. These guys are almost in a cult of their own with this worldview. You know, I do what I want. I'm good without God. I'm just stardust. And, you know, I'm going to go back out there. It's crazy.
Great answer. I'll say great answer. This also is what I was trying to explain to you in the email exchange that we had about the other discussion. And it just it doesn't. There's a point, and as Jason brought up, there is a point where you're only fighting with their pride. So it's best if they deal with that pride first, and then spend your time on them. But it's true that we gotta keep a mind out for the viewers. Like today, debates have become this norm. Everybody wants to debate everybody. But back in the day, people like Kent Hovind would go to universities and would debate the professors in front of their students. So he knew he wouldn't win the professors. You know, it was all about the students. So in that sense, we do have to have the patience, even though we might hate it, to deal with them sometimes, even if they are obnoxious. Some of them are. And Gangster Ghost is specifically referring to a specific guy out there who you personally know. And I think you've had this discussion personally before, and you know he's not changing his mind. I don't even know if that's the one you're referring to.
No, that's exactly who it was, and he just put it in the chat. You know, would you ever debate Mark Stoney on preterism? And you know, me and Mark and Aaron and Yia sat in the back of the shop down there for months and months, almost every night, arguing this. And so, and every morning in the chow hall before Bible study, it's completely unfruitful to argue this with Mark Stoney. Completely unfruitful. Go ahead, Jason. I saw you wanting to say something a couple times. I look like it anyways. I'm sorry. So anyways, a debate on that, I don't think so. I mean, I would have a discussion on it. I wouldn't have a formal debate on it. I don't think that would be worth anything.
Right. And I don't know. You're supposed to have equal time on debates, and you start with a question, and you end up receiving 5 minutes of going around the question. And they spent those 5 minutes and they brought like another 100 points because they want to avoid that question. And when it's your turn, you don't even know where to begin. So I see this happening so much. And for me, I laugh with debates. I think we are beyond and I'm not responding to Gangster Ghost right now. I think we are way beyond the time of debating. We have so much technology that if somebody is interested into the answers, they are out there. It's not up to us to convince them anymore. I mean, that used to be maybe 30, 20 years ago, maybe even 10. I will give you that. But now I believe we are so close to the end that it's not about debates. It's about, brother, if you're not getting it, go read Romans because it's referring to you. So, you know what I mean? The reprobate mind, and because they did not see God, God gave them the reprobate mind. So I think we're in that level right now. And if I find people who legitimately care to debate, to discuss, and have the mentality that if I am presented with enough evidence, I will be the one to change my mind, I'm always down for that. I mean, this goes back to the beginning and the birth of philosophy. Philosophy didn't arrive because people were like, I will tell you this, and nobody disagreed with them. It came with discussions and debates, and that's how we have arrived wherever we have. So, but people, I don't know, man, there's a lot of, I'll use the word spoiled. There's a lot of spoiled children out there that consider themselves too much. and they start insulting serious people, professors, because they have a different opinion. And Kent
Right.
Hovind is one of them. I mean, if anything, even if I disagreed with Kent Hovind, even if I disagreed with him on everything, the way my mom taught me is to call him sir.
Right.
I mean, even if, right? And you see
Right.
this mentality, they call him Kent. Oh, no, Kent,
Right.
that's all. That's what you always do, Kent. I mean, who are you, little brat? I'll stop here. I'll stop here.
No, I think it's funny. I wasn't gonna worry about it until you brought it up, but I think you're exactly right. These guys, I mean, they're not writing letters to Dr. Dre telling him he's not a real doctor. Do you know what I mean? Or Dr. J from basketball. I mean, they're not doing this, you know. Just like they're not online in America anyway. They're not online freaking out about Thor and Zeus and all these other people. They're triggered by the real God, by the ultimate powerful God that created them. That's what's got them all triggered and in their panties.
Yep.
Amen. To me,
Yesterday,
if
go
one
ahead,
of the,
Ryan. Go
sorry
ahead. Go ahead.
to jump in there. To me, one of the evidences of the truth of Christianity is the fact that when atheists go after religion and mock religion, they only pick one. They don't go
Right.
after any of the others. They only go after the one true one. That, to me, that's telling. You know.
Very.
Amen.
Very.
Yesterday, somebody asked Kent Hovind a question, and he said, we have a book about that. I don't remember the title. Do you guys, and he was asking around if somebody remembered. He has written like so many books, and he's carrying so many other books. So today I saw somebody who uploaded a video saying Kent Hovind can't even remember his own books or his own seminars. He changed it from book to seminars. He can't even remember his own seminars. I mean, guys, get a life. I mean, right now that I am talking to you guys, I have a soldering iron in front of me, and I'm trying to connect some LEDs because I'm trying to fix some details on some computer that I'm building, and I'm doing stuff, man. I don't have time to sit down there and make videos on Joseph because he sneezed on the camera. I mean, hi.
Still kill and destroy, man. You know, when you're either a child of God or you're a child of disobedience. There's no in between, and you'll know it
And
by
it's
their
the
fruit.
same,
You know, what are they
exactly.
wasting their time on?
And it is the same people that then will turn around and say, "Oh, I asked Joseph to debate me, but he's a chicken." You know. No,
I love when they
I'm
call
not.
me. They don't understand, Achilles. They have no concept of Christianity. Like when they go to calling me names personally in the emails, right? Because they know I field emails for docs, so they'll start talking junk about the audio or something. And you know, but it's funny. I admit my faults all the time, but I love when they take it personal and they start calling me names because they have no idea what I call myself every time I pray, and they think they can hurt my feelings with a name. You know, it's just it's more of that ego and more of that pride, like. Somebody said it a long time ago when Twitter started really getting famous. And it was like, you know, the reason I hate Twitter is because it made everybody believe that their opinion matters. Right. And it's kind of a brutal line, but it's very, very accurate. You know, like just because you have an opinion on something doesn't mean the world needs to hear it.
And be
anyway,
about it.
Yeah. Right. Especially being like that. Yeah. But I tell them that all the time in the chat. Like, I don't want an echo chamber. I love discussing. Come, let us reason together. You know, let's figure something out that we didn't know coming into this conversation. And it's awfully hard to do with the atheist evolutionist crowd. It really is, because they, like you were saying. I mean, Doc don't even introduce himself as Dr. Kent Hovind, so he's not going to get upset if you just call him Kent or you know what I mean, or something like that, right. Sir. You know, but with some respect. But I mean. But that's what I told him. I don't want an echo chamber in the chat, but if, and you can disagree with every breath that he takes, but at least be respectful about it. You know, exactly. There's no sense in this playground stuff. Anyways, exactly. Jason, you ever have any debates like that? People just hate you because you're you.
Yeah. Well, I remember there was this one debate, and Dr. Hovind does a really good job, by the way. I think because for one, he knows this stuff. But he, you know, they do attack him, and he just lets it fall off of him, and he keeps his cool. Anyway, there was this one debate I was in one time, and about a month later, someone came up to me and she said, I basically it was the way you handled yourself, because the other lady just started freaking out and calling me a cult leader and all this other stuff, and it just got really nasty, and I just kept showing her love, and basically it was because of that, not I sound like not what I was actually saying, but just because I kept it with love, that she started looking into what I was saying, this other lady, and then decided to that I was right because of the way I handle myself.
It goes a long way.
Yeah.
It
And I've
goes a
been
long
in some
Yeah.
other debates. You're familiar with those, with the flat
Yeah.
earthers and such.
Yeah, we have
I do believe it's very important to pass the kindergarten and then be considered able to debate. Like if you only attack and if you are being disrespectful, then you gotta go back to school or go back to your mom, you know.
that's right.
And then once you pass those two first levels, they're not hard. So
Yes.
once you pass those levels, yeah, I mean, we can discuss about whether a book opens from the left or the right, but be respectful.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And you're right. Like that you need those lessons first, because it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong if you're a jerk. Right. If you
Right.
have no respect, if you have no upbringing, like it doesn't matter what you say. A lot of people aren't going to listen to you. Right. Like I'll tell you a good example of that. Here's how I know that. People get upset when I tell them that 2 + 2 is 4, even if the devil says it. Right. Like they're so they are so judgmental, and they get to control what happens, that they don't even want to believe 2 + 2 is 4 if the devil is holding the pencil. And that is just an amazing thing. That is an amazing thing to me.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
But all right. Well, it's been an hour and 10 minutes, and I've got to go back to my volunteer job. It's
Well,
Friday. I definitely want to do this again, though, Mr. Jason. I
yeah.
definitely want to do this again.
Okay.
Hey, before you go, Joseph,
How you feel about preterism? Maybe we could beat up on Gangster Ghost.
Well, yeah. I don't believe in preterism. I mean, there's, just from our discussions,
Right.
I've there's many times I'm reading and I have that in my mind. I have lots of doctrines in my mind where when I'm reading something, I'm like, well, there's a really good verse that's anti this or anti that, and I've can't think of too many that are perfect, but yeah, there's lots of things that come in my mind that I'm like, I just don't see how you can. I mean, you got to really stretch some stuff, in my opinion.
Right.
You have to really stretch some stuff to say, that everything's already happened, that there's
Yeah.
no prophecy in the Bible left to be fulfilled. I mean, yeah.
Where do you
many.
where do you start with that? I mean,
Yeah.
seriously.
No
Right.
hope. Just like Calvinism, there's no hope. You cannot assure anybody hope. And if there's one thing that Jesus and the Holy Spirit gives, is hope. Paul is all about the hope. And the faith is the substance of things hoped for, right? So we're hoping for Jesus. It's just amazing. But that's where I draw the line, at the hope. Well, how
Yeah.
miserable does it have to be that it's all done? It's all finished already. Like, even worse than that, of those that think we're in the millennial reign right now. How in the world could we be in the millennial reign with all this evil about?
And there's
Wild.
so many things in there that's supposed to happen in the millennium, and that's not happening.
Right.
A lion shall lay down, if I remember right, lion shall lay down with an ox, and the little child will lead the lion, and in Zechariah 14, it appears to me, the way I read it anyway, it's there'll be we'll be keeping the Feast of Tabernacles in the millennium, and if it doesn't, if a nation doesn't, the Father will not send rain there. So that's how I read it. But
Right. Go ahead, Ryan. I saw your audio bubbling a couple times. No, okay, he must be
Yeah,
gone
yeah.
again.
Sorry.
Oh, there he is.
So Joseph, how do you and Jason know one another?
I know Mr. Jason through his father, actually, Mr. Skip. When I was in
Okay.
Louisiana, I was going to have another guest on that was with me in Louisiana, Austin, but he couldn't make it today. But anyways, I was working for Mr. Skip, and he had a project in Tennessee. He wanted to go up there and mess with a deck. And so we all loaded up and went up there and done it. I met Jason when I was up there, and we were cruising through his property. And I just said out loud offhand, I was like, wow, this looks like DAL. And so he had mentioned, oh, you know, Dr. Hovind. And so it struck it up like that, really that simple. And then I went and worked for Jason on his farm for about a year. Little over a year, a little under a year.
Yeah,
And then,
year give or take.
somewhere in there. And then and he helped me a lot. His family is amazing. I could never put into words what Jason Casey and his family have done for me. I couldn't do it. So I'm not going to try. It's just overwhelming. And I love these guys. So that's how I know Mr. Jason Casey.
Okay, cool.
You almost got me to cry, Ryan. Said I wasn't going to cry today.
And I
Yeah,
married you
yeah.
and Bobby.
Yeah, I put
I've
that. That's the screen capture. I cut my wife out of that picture. But that's a picture of me and Bobby and Jason right there. He married us on that same deck.
That is so cool. That is cool.
It's amazing.
But-
It's absolutely, God's awesome. That's what I'm saying. He gives us what we need when we need it. And
You know, if the Lord ever brings a woman into my life that's half the quality of Bobby, I'll be very thankful. Very thankful.
I'll tell you, I borrowed from scripture with Bobby, right? Like, because I was sitting here at DAL and it was in the man cave, and I was with a bunch of these young men, and they're all ready to get married. You know, they don't want to burn in their desire. They're ready to get married. So and I was laughing because I had a horrible relationships go down the drain and stuff like that. So I was over it. I was going to be like Paul. Paul didn't need to mess with it. I don't need to mess with it. And but I saw those guys getting excited over it again, and I was like, well, one thing you haven't tried, Joe, is to try to try to follow God's route on this. You've always done it yourself. You never took God into the bar with you to get a chick. And so I did. So I started praying for a long time. About a long time I was praying every night for months and months and months. I was praying that I would know who it was that God wanted me to marry, because she would say this and she would do this. Two specific examples that I couldn't misunderstand if I tried to. And sure enough, here comes Bobby. Now, I mean, that's not to say I still didn't screw some things up, just full disclosure before certain trolls try to run their mouth. I still screwed up a couple of things, but there's no doubt in my mind that God had put me and Bobby together for a reason. It's almost like when you ask your dad if you can borrow the car and he says, yeah. And then you just drive it right into the ditch. You know what I mean? Like the father still gave you permission, but you still screwed it up, And so I don't even know where I was going with that. I just love Jason and I love Bobby. That's all.
Well, right now my mentality is I'm going to be like Paul too, but that can always change. I have to be open-minded.
That's
Gotta
right.
be open to change. Just like I thought I was going to live with my brother for however many years because he was never going to remarry. Well, gosh, don't ever say never.
That's right.
These are two words that God doesn't like: always and never.
That's right.
When you speak one of the two, it immediately something happens to prove you wrong. I've seen that so many times. I don't use those words. I cut them out of my dictionary.
My brother's never going to remarry.
That's better than mine.
Yeah. Because I actually had people ask me, well, what would you do if your brother gets
hear
remarried?
Mark say
Mark wants to debate everyone, man.
I know. I don't know. Does he ever debate non-Christians?
But he, right? I don't know. I've never seen that. But he doesn't. You see, now that's a good example to bring something up. but I kind of think we addressed it. Personally, I don't feel like discussing with somebody who is there only to convince.
Right.
If you want to have a discussion, you gotta be able to listen. Discussion requires a mouth, but also ears. So if you want to only to try to debate where people say, "Oh, well, let's debate," well, do you really want to debate, or do you just want to talk? Because if you just want to talk and me to get convinced that you're right, then please, can you just record yourself talking and send it to me as an MP3 and I can watch it later? Because I don't want to waste my time with people that have shut ears.
I think most of it, they just want the audience to watch them tell you what's up. I don't even think it's really so much about telling you what's up. It's more about the audience watching them tell you what's up. You know, they need that dopamine click that they can't get from
Yeah.
regular conversation. They're not getting stimulated in the proper ways because it's all about the clicks. It's all about the drama. It's all about what's in the inbox. How many responses did this get? How much engagement did this get?
Yeah.
And, anyways,
They probably have the analytics screen next to their bed and they're watching, you know.
right. Like, there's no doubt about it. I can watch him in the chat at Doc, and like, one of them was really famous for it. I know they just copy and paste from Chat GPT and try to act like they're discrediting Doc, you know, just by doing that. And we actually did an interview one time with this guy who didn't even hide it. He was like, "Hold on, I'm gonna put this in Chat GPT." And so Doc
No.
essentially was debating Chat GPT 4. It was wild. It's probably like 4 months ago, 5 months ago. But all right, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and end the live stream. But if you guys stay backstage, Jason and Achilles, if you don't mind for a minute, and I appreciate the people that came in. Gangster Ghost, I'm not interested in debating Mark Stoney about preterism. I'll team up with Mark Stoney to debate some atheists, though, and try to get some souls won for the Lord if he's interested at all in that. Doubtful, but let him know. Mr. Casey, anything else you'd like to say before I kill the stream, sir?
Well, one thing about a lot of cult leaders are cult followers. They swallow everything that the cult. So, like for instance, there's one cult that I found. They had like a list of like 40 doctrines, and I found one doctrine that I thought I'd really a doubt that was wrong. Now, a lot of these, of course, a lot of doctrines are correct. Probably, 20 or maybe 35 of them I agree with, but one I could easily prove that they were incorrect, and so I did a whole lot of study of that doctrine, and so when I get a conversation with that cult or a member of that cult, I can just say, look, what do you think about this? Because their book, they say they have to believe this or they're not a part of their cult. So I'm like, what do you believe about this? And let me show you, how that cannot be true. And then, well, then they start thinking, hopefully. And if you can prove them wrong in that, then, maybe it'll take them out of that cult mentality. And maybe everything that they say in this religion is not correct, and maybe they'll start thinking for themselves.
Yeah,
That's the hope, though. That's the hope, right?
Yeah.
That everybody will come
Yeah.
to the understanding and the knowledge. That's right. All right. Well, we're going to end it right there for the live stream. We're all going to chill out backstage and talk a little bit. Thank you for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time.